Growing up in Norway, I always experienced a sense of cringe towards new Norwegian movies that came out. You know, unless it was a classic that would repeat on television, the 90s and the 2000s didn't really have that many great Norwegian films, in my opinion. However, as I grew up and started being more and more interested in film, I noticed that the quality was also rising in Norwegian cinema. More and more great films were appearing, and the Norwegian crowd, the Norwegian cinema crowd, they really responded and started flocking to the theaters. Today, Norwegian cinema seems to be getting more and more international recognition. I thought this would be appropriate then to make a video about Norwegian cinema, kind of like a beginner's guide for those of you who haven't seen any Norwegian films before. And I think this is especially important considering Sweden has a leg up on us when it comes to international recognition. I'm looking at you, Bergman. Alright, so I know I said that the Norwegian film boom, the modern Norwegian film boom, didn't really kick in until the late 2000s. But there is one film I really do need to talk about before we move on. You see, this one is a Norwegian classic that I think everyone should be watching. Flåklypa Grand Prix, or Pinchcliffe Grand Prix, is that how you say it? Is the story of Reodor Felgen, an inventor and bicycle repairman who lives at the top of Pinchcliffe Mountain with his two children? Pets? No, that's not right. Assistants. Solan, the enthusiastic morning bird, and Ludvig, the clumsy, lovable hedgehog. With a sponsorship from an oil sheik, they build the supercar El Tempo Gigante and join the Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. The film was directed by Ivo Caprino, who is very well known in Norway for having made tons of stop-motion animated films, with Pinchcliffe being his most famous and unfortunately final feature film. It has spawned countless spin-offs, toys, games, and all kinds of merchandise. You're probably thinking, but Thomas, why would I watch a movie about a bicycle repairman who talks to animals? I mean, if my description of the movie wasn't enough, let me list some more reasons. The film is dripping in atmosphere with beautiful animation and imagery, which for 1970s Norway was especially impressive. It has characters you care about, not just because they are very comedic characters, but also because they're very well written and very sympathetic. Throughout the film, you just want to live with these characters because the environment they live in seems peaceful, calm, and charming. When conflict appears, you really don't want their adorable way of living to be disturbed in any way. This is really effective in building the tension that serves the structure of the film very well. It's exciting, charming, and smile-inducing in all the right ways. Definitely an essential film for a beginner in Norwegian cinema. Now that I've covered a classic, it's time to move ahead to the year 2010, when the Norwegian golden age of movies, as I like to call it, really started to kick off. In The Troll Hunter, we follow a documentary crew on their journey to discover if trolls really exist. They travel to remote locations, fjords, and other places with beautiful Norwegian scenery, encountering some wacky characters along the way. Norwegian comedian Otto Jespersen plays the titular troll hunter, whom the team encounters early on in the film. He contributes with a great comedic deadpan performance and makes you believe that there just might be trolls in our forests. The film is directed by André Øvredal, who takes clear inspiration from films like The Blair Witch Project and mixes it with Norwegian folklore to create an exciting and funny film. The Troll Hunter was one of the first films I remember people really talking about when I was in school. It's a typical case of people running around saying, "Oh, have you seen The Troll Hunter? It's really good, you need to see it." And it's easy to see why. The aesthetics of the film is not something to brag about, considering most of it is shot as if it were a documentary done by the students, but the comedic performances carry the film and makes it an enjoyable watch. The film does a great job convincing us the events on screen are real, and I can bet you that you can trick some people by saying it's an actual documentary about trolls in Norway. And then, a year later, a different genre became the boss of the box office in Norway. Headhunters is about Roger Brown, a headhunter who seems to have it all. In order to keep up his luxurious way of living, he has to steal expensive pieces of art. One day, a theft goes wrong and Roger ends up on the run. The film is directed by Morten Tyldum and features Aksel Hennie, who's now a bit of an international star. Based on the book with the same name, Headhunters is an exciting thriller crime film that is excellent on all accounts. The script is superb, with sympathetic characters and great dialogue. It's well shot, and the direction cleverly takes cues from American action films without feeling derivative. Aksel Hennie makes for a great leading man, and the supporting cast are giving it their all. The filmmaking on display was not only recognized by critics, it also became the #1 Norwegian movie that year, with 557,000 tickets sold. It was even nominated for a BAFTA award the following year. Headhunters is probably one of the films on this list that are the easiest to consume for an international audience because of its Hollywood structure and suspenseful plot. Trust me when I say this film will rock your socks off with twists and turns around every corner. For a long time, Headhunters was my favorite Norwegian film. But then, in 2012, a new film came out that would quickly take its place. The Orheim Company is the third film in a trilogy based on the books by Tore Renberg. The film follows Jarle Klepp in present day, where he gets the news of his father's death. He then starts to reminisce about his past growing up in Norway in the 80s. We see his troubled family life, his life as an activist, and at school. Now, I've never seen the other two films in the series, and I don't think you need to either to understand this one, as this film works perfectly well on its own. Although I've heard that the other two films are really good as well, so maybe look them up, I don't know. It's difficult for me to pinpoint why it's my favorite Norwegian film. Perhaps it's the moving script with charismatic characters and a real emotional core. Perhaps it's the atmosphere and feeling of 1980s Norway, which also has a classic summer feeling that brings you back to childhood. Perhaps it's the incredible acting by the main characters, especially the dad character played by Kristoffer Joner, who acts his ass off in this film. There are so many feelings in this film, perfectly covering the entire emotional spectrum. You smile, you laugh, you cringe, and you cry. It's an intimate character study and a film that leaves an impact on you after the credits. I love it when films try to teach you to understand several perspectives and washes out the harsh black and white of traditional storytelling. There are no villains or heroes in this film, good guys or bad guys. It's just a boy and his dad trying to understand each other, and not many films manage to make that topic as compelling as this film does. I guess it boils down to one word: empathy. So far I've talked about an animated classic, a mockumentary, the action thriller, and a character-based drama. If you study the films in the latter part of this list, you can tend to notice that the influence from American cinema is growing stronger by every film, and every year. This is also true for the next film I'm going to talk about, which takes a tried and true Hollywood concept and both tries to emulate it and innovate it. It's one of Norway's biggest box office successes. Get ready for The Wave centers around Christian Eikjord and his family, who are living in Geiranger. 100 years earlier, there was a major natural disaster where a mountain rock dislodged from the mountain, crashing into the water below and causing a wave that decimated an entire village. Christian works as a geologist, and he's certain a similar disaster might happen again. The Wave is directed by Roar Uthaug and stars Kristoffer Joner. I swear we have many actors in Norway. And Arne Daltorp in the titular roles. Now, this movie was so popular in its year of release that it became the highest grossing film in Norway that year. It beat Star Wars The Force Awakens and James Bond Spectre. The most remarkable thing about The Wave leading up to its release was the marketing. Posters were everywhere, no joke. You couldn't go to a bus stop without seeing the poster. They also put out a teaser trailer that was very ominous, showcasing the titular Wave in all its VFX glory. People went nuts for this film. Great reviews from critics and audiences. Even though I think the reactions to this film were blown a bit out of the water, I still think it's an important film to talk about because of how it so perfectly adapts the American disaster movie and mixes in some Norwegian DNA. I think it marks the time in Norwegian cinema where the Hollywood influence was the strongest, and which has sparked a surge in big blockbuster Norwegian films. The whole film is a slow build towards this wave, which always keeps you at the edge of your seat. And when the wave finally strikes, boy oh boy, what a scene. If you have any interest in suspense films, check this one out. In conclusion, I would like to say that it's really interesting to see where Norwegian cinema is going. Personally, for me, it seems like every year it's getting better, and I can't wait for what comes next. There are many more Norwegian films that I really want to talk about on this channel, but I think that'll keep you guys satisfied until next time. Have you seen any of these films? Maybe you can check them out and then come back to the video and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought and which one you liked best. If you want more videos like this discussing Norwegian cinema, feel free to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. I would also like to thank all the people supporting me on Patreon. You guys make this channel come alive, so thank you so much for that. My name has been Thomas, this has been Filmkos, and I think I better go watch some Norwegian movies now to get ready for the next video. Jesus.